quite the blizzard coming down. Sat in one spot as long as I could. This blizzard came unexpected. My waterproof pants aren't with me, so they're kind of wet. Not a good idea to be by yourself and wet in the middle of nowhere this cold. So, can't believe how many grizzly bears are ripping around still. They're all big males, real big. They're hunting. They're looking to get that last moose down probably before they go into their hole. That one huge one was printing the snow. He was coming straight down the trail towards me and stepped off the trail. So while I was taking those pictures, he was right there listening to me or smelling me or whatever he was doing. Anyway, I think I'm gonna get back to the truck, get my old phone, and I have an email I want to share with everybody. It's a real brow raiser, a real holy cow story from our friend Jason, First Nations guy here in BC, the guy who had one of these things climb onto his machine when it was broken down near Spence's Bridge years back. Probably basically all of our worst nightmare scenario. And as soon as I get back, I'll dig out my old phone, as long as there's still juice in it. I've got that story saved on there so I can read it, make a video with this phone, and share it with you guys. This is going to be something else. I've also had a few different people emailing me back and forth who claimed to have been firsthand involved in so-called cleanups of incidents in BC and other places. So, but one thing they share in common is they've all said to me they know there's a soft disclosure coming. Something like what's going on with the UFO thing and our society today. So we'll see what happens if we keep digging, right? A lot of people are sharing a lot of stuff. Anyway, I'll be back in 1 second. Oh, here's a video camera, a trail camera video that I got last night at 3 in the morning on this trail I was sitting in front of. Kind of interesting. Anyway, here we go. I'll be back in a bit. Carriage pretty soggy, and my old phone is about to bite it. So, I have to do this kind of quick and hope for the best with the power left in this phone, right? Listen to this one. Hey Steve, how are you today? Cannot access my other email. I emailed you about my friend Dan's experience, the water tank being dragged by the Sasquatch, and about me meeting up with his brother about his falling experience and finding a huge skeleton inside of a cedar tree. Well, here it is. P.S. You can use the names. Dan called me up and asked if he would come over to his place to help him unload some gravel out of his truck. While we were unloading his truck, an older stout man in his 60s pulled up into his driveway. Dan walked over and greeted the man. They walked over, introduced me to the older fella as his brother Troy. After we all unloaded the truck, we went into Dan's house and cracked open a few drinks. We talked for a couple hours, and after a bottle of Glenlivet Scotch, I broke the ice and told Troy about my experience with the Sasquatch. Dan tells Troy, tell him about your encounters. Troy tells me he was working for a logging contractor near Blue River, BC, a hotbed. The area is called Mantou, M-A-N-T-O-U, about an hour and a half north of Blue River, BC. Troy said he was at the bottom of this logging block where there was a huge cedar and that this tree had to have been 16 feet around to the butt. Troy then says he cleared all the brush around the tree before felling it. Then he bores into the cedar to see how hollow the tree was. After about an hour of making the cuts with the chainsaw, he began to fall the monster cedar. It went down with a thundering smash. Now Troy explained to me how this tree exploded when it hit the ground. He walked up to the tree, near the butt of the tree, and said you could see into the tree, how hollow it was. Kind of like looking into a cave. Troy then says he thought he could see brownish-looking bones in the hollow tree. He thought this could be a food cache pit from a cougar or a bear. Then he crawled into the cedar and pulls out some of the bones. And to what he said, by further inspection, looked like a hip bone of a human. And the next thing he pulled out shocked the hell out of him. Troy said he pulled a huge arm bone with the hand attached. He said the hand had to have been 4 times bigger than any human hand, and the arm bone had to be as thick as the end of the base of a baseball bat. He then called his boss down on the handheld radio With further inspection of the bones, they found long hair and rawhide-like material stuck to some of the skeletal remains. They were dumbfounded what he had found. Troy's supervisor said, "We need to call the police as these are human remains." Troy said the bones were thicker and longer than any human remains, and the hair and rawhide material were unexplainable. I asked Troy, was there any smell? He said no, just the smell of the cedar boughs. He also noted that the bush supervisor called the police. Just as the day was ending, conservation officers arrived. They were never allowed to go back to the site until a week later, just to get their yarder and cat. They never logged that block. Troy also noted that when retrieving their logging gear, there was a conservation officer there with another contractor waiting to deactivate the road. I asked Troy what he thought of it. He said he thinks this may be where a Sasquatch died. I asked him if there were any openings in the cedar or how he thought it could have got in there. He shrugged his shoulders as he cracked open another bottle of scotch. I asked Troy if he had any other strange encounters while working. He said no. Heard a few stories from other loggers and about an encounter near Chetwynd in 2018, which is very near where I am right now. He tells me he was driving up north and got a flat tire by Lemeray on Highway 97, John Hart Highway. He said he was parked on the side of the road, starting to loosen the lug nuts on the flat tire when he had heard something running toward his truck about 100 yards away on the shoulder of the road. It sounded like when you had sandals hit it. Hits the bottom of your feet, but 10 times louder. Troy tells me at this time he's thinking it's a bear, some kind of animal. Get in the cab of the truck, turns it on, starts honking the horn. Just then a big rig comes around the corner, coming from behind, and Troy looks at the back window and sees the silhouette of this hair-covered creature run into the ditch and up the bank. He said the being had to be over 8 feet tall and about 3 car lengths from him as it jumped into the ditch. He then said he could not believe how big this thing was and how the hair hung from the body. The big truck ended up being a logging truck and saw that Troy had a tidy tank in the back and knew right away another logger in trouble. Stopped asking if he needed help. Troy caught a ride into Chetwynd and thought, what would have happened to him if the trucker never showed up? I asked if the truck driver saw anything. He said, I doubt it. Troy now carries a 4570 Marlin in his truck wherever he goes and warned me if I ever travel on the Hart Highway to carry protection. We had a good visit talking about Sasquatch and logging, and I was feeling pretty good by the time I left Dan's place. I wanted to email you right away as this is still fresh in my head, so forgive me for mistakes. Keep up the good work, Steve. Much love and respect, Jason. Now, how's that? How's that for an eye popper of a holy shit story? And it sounds right out there, but most of our reality is right out there as far as I'm concerned. So, but we have heard of, like I've known some very credible, very sane people have told me flat out of seeing one of these things hiding behind a 2-foot wide tree when the thing was 4 feet wide and only seeing half of it coming out from their side. You know, there's all sorts of very, very unexplained things that go on with some of these unknown frickin' beings, right? That's all there is to it. And we'll keep digging, right? Just keep digging, keep everybody sending in those experiences, and we are still waiting with a bated breath from other contacts to share what they have, and they claim to have firsthand incredible knowledge of what the government or whoever it is has been covering up, how and why, and what they have done to take part in the cover-up themselves. And they have all explained to me clearly they've had enough of the BS, and they want to share what they can without breaching national security with their fellow men, which is great and which is what everybody should do, especially today. It is absolutely getting ridiculous of the bullshit we're being fed, right? But anyway, I'm going to get going and carry on my adventure here and see how I can make out. It's quite a little blizzard. It's actually starting to cover me right up. I laid on the ground over there down this little cut. Anyway, onward. I'll be sharing more of these short ones as I go, because I can. And make sure you guys keep sending them in, all right? Especially people who have firsthand absolute knowledge and may have possibly be involved in the cover-up, all right? Take care.